to play your brand new single, Mountains of Cash, on our show for the very first time tonight. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's cool.
So glad you're having us on the show.
No problem at all. So tell our listeners a little bit about what they can expect from this track and how this track came into being.
It's actually an old track we wrote maybe like 4 years ago. I think.
It was quite different at the time. It was more of like a pop song, and we're a rock band really, so we've changed it up, and it's a totally new single kind of, and we produced it ourselves this time, and it's
much more should we say punkish maybe.
So what led to that? What led to that change in sound? Was there a discussion around that before it happened, or did it kind of just happen organically?
It happened organically, and before we had a producer, and they were great and stuff, but we were kind of new to the whole thing, so we maybe was led on to things that we didn't quite agree on totally, and didn't get to choose the sound ourselves really, so it's better now, we think.
So what
changed what do you call it, besättning?
Yes, before we were playing as a trio or four-piece, but now we're just like a two-piece, so it's just me and Ask, so that's why Ask and Carol.
So has that as playing as a two-piece, has that made it a little bit easier for you both and also tightened the sound up a little bit?
Yes, we think so, because it kind of, like the framework around the band kind of gives us also some creativity, because you have to think in another way. When you're two, you just have to play really good together. You can't fail on the bass line or anything, because then it will be quiet. So we do a lot of multitasking, and it changes the sound really. It's kind of, things got more you can hear things better when it's just like
every element has a bigger space
in
the sound.
It's more, every element is kind of more important now.
So what was the track Mountains of Cash actually written about?
At the time, it was kind of a weird political situation. We never thought like somebody like Donald Trump would be president, kind of, and it wasn't quite written about him, but we were also kind of fed up with some politics where, people, the richest people in the world get more rich and poorer, so it's kind of about the greed, and at the same time also the things happened in the States, and we were traveling a lot to the States, so I think that also had something to do about that.
So does the world around us, is that something that inspires you to sit down and write music?
Yeah, definitely. I think that is something me and Ask has in common. We're a little into politics too, or we are not kind of into politics, but we care about what happens around us. And in Norway, everybody watches a lot of news. So it's, and for the last 2 years, we've been having a studio close to my parents, and they are watching a lot of news, so kind of more than we want to.
And I think over the last couple of years, a lot of people, even here in Australia, who didn't used to watch the news, have started to watch the news and have become more aware about what is happening in the world. Is that something that you've found for yourselves as well?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So much going on these days. Before the coronavirus,
we were first going to the US for the NAMM show, and then going to the Philippines, and we had to watch the news every day because of the coronavirus. We didn't know it wasn't that big thing yet, but it was kind of starting to be a big thing, and it was also a volcano eruption in the Philippines, and so when we were at the airport, we were watching the news every minute, because we didn't know if the plane would leave or not. So we were one of the last planes that left, actually, and we came
before COVID.
Yes.
So touring has been something that's been virtually impossible over the last couple of years. How have you both spent that time? Have you spent that time working on new music instead of touring?
Yeah.
Yeah, new music and videos.
Yes.
And merch.
Yeah, we've been keeping really busy, though it seems really weird because we're stuck in a place with about 100 inhabitants. It's a really small, tiny mountain community in Norway, so it's kind of weird that we could stay so busy. But before it was really bad internet here too, but under COVID we got a way better internet, so that was one really lucky thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we have a studio here, so we record everything here and do all the music videos and been keeping busy. And playing for cows, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are your plans now for the future? You've got the album coming out in August. Are you hoping to be able to get out there and tour and do some shows to promote the album release?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
We were looking into different countries now, so we're working totally DIY with this whole project. So we are booking the tours ourselves and producing and mixing. So we're wanting to tour at least in the UK and
Germany.
In Germany this autumn and Norway, and then after Christmas we're hoping to do the
US and Asia and of course Australia and New Zealand as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. That was actually going to be my next question because, of course, Australia's not that far. Have you been to Australia before?
We've never been to Australia. I have friends that's been living there and everything, and they talk so highly about Australia and also New Zealand. So we'd really, really want to go there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think your music is going to be absolutely loved by Aussies. And one of the things that bands that come to Australia mention is that our crowds go absolutely wild during shows. Is that something that you're prepared for?
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Norwegians are really, I think people have been talking about it for like decades, since Janis Joplin even talked about Europeans, or especially Nordic people, being very cerebral. So they are very quiet in front of the stage and they're just nodding their heads a little bit. So it's it would be awesome to have like a crazy crowd.
Yeah.
You do see some pretty crazy stuff at Australian shows. I think the craziest thing I've ever seen is a guy in a wheelchair crowd surfing.
I saw that. Yeah. That's awesome. That's how it should be.
So bringing it back to your music, is Mountains of Cash a good example of what we can hear from the rest of the album, or what can we hear on this album?
There's more songs like Mountains of Cash, but it's also a very big range on the songs. It's melancholic kind of, some songs.
Yeah, it's overall melancholic, the whole album, but Mountains of Cash is maybe the most energetic and punked up of the songs, and the others are more mellower.
Yeah, and also we're releasing a new single on
July 8th.
And that will be kind of a middle thing, which is not that melancholic. So that could...
Yeah, a little bit more...
like
not happy, but more happy.
Yeah. We hear on Mountains of Cash that you're both willing to really try new things when you hear trombone and the spacey kind of guitars. Tell us a little bit about the instruments that you both play now, and how do you get those unique sounds? Are you always willing to experiment with new sounds and new instruments?
Yeah, definitely.
That's what we love the most, to experiment with sound, and the trombone is kind of a new thing. We have done it just for jokes on videos and stuff before, but lately we've been using it because it has that cinematic kind of effect in songs, which almost pad like textures under the music. And I'm a really bad trombonist, trombone player because I've just played in a school band many years ago and I was hopeless. So it's just for the texture and it makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it has a nice character and adds a nice backdrop.
Yeah, really nice backdrop with trombones.
Are there any other...
Both,
yeah, I was going to ask, are there any other instruments that you experiment with on the album as well?
I play the drums. This is the first the recordings that I actually play the drums.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, because we're both guitar players from before, and but Ask has started the last 4 years to play drums, but more and more so. So before we were doing more two-piece guitar things, but it's now more sounding more like a band with a acoustic drum set and also with pads and samples. You use some effects and samples.
Awesome.
And a synthesizer.
Yeah. And the looping is also kind of, we're doing a lot of looping now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we cannot wait to hear the rest of the album, but for now on our show, we are going to take a listen to Mountains of Cash for the first time. So is there anything you'd like to say to our listeners out there before they take a listen to this amazing track?
Enjoy.
Yeah, would love to come to Australia as soon as possible, and so happy to, get.
Yeah, looking forward to see you at a show in Australia.
Yeah.
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible.